Welcome back to Winterverse. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Grand Archive. So this is a TCG I covered a little bit when it was on Kickstarter. I backed it. I've got a couple videos up, or at least one where I played on Tabletop Simulator. It's going to be coming to game stores in a few months, but the demo decks have already started to hit stores, and some like higher prestige reviewers and such have gotten some early Kickstarter boxes. But I'm going to be playing with some demo decks. So these decks are identical, and they're both the warrior character Lorraine, and they are demo decks. These are not like full-on high quality, but hopefully this will be a good tutorial playthrough. And if you haven't seen how the game plays, you get a sense of it with these final quality cards. So I've sleeved them up in some dragon shields. The first thing the first player will do is pull a spirit out of their material deck, which is the smaller deck here. Players also have their main decks, the bigger decks, in the bottom corners, and then I'm going to put the discard pile right there. Not the normal prescribed setup, but that's how I like it. So this is a lost spirit. You'll notice this doesn't have an element in the top right corners. This is norm, which is normal element. Everybody can play cards of the normal element by default, but normally you'd be using your spirit to indicate and give yourself access to a different spirit like fire, air, earth, or water. These demo decks are only going to be playing with normal. And this is our champion card. So at the start of the game, you have to choose a level 0 champion to start out with, but your champion will be kind of leveling up or evolving over the course of the game. But for now, we've got 15 health, access to the normal element, and on enter, we draw 7 cards. And that's going to happen right away. So the spirit you have tells you how big your opening hand is going to be. So definitely check out the other spirit options. I think the other 4 right now are just the 4 elements that I mentioned, and I think they all have that same text of draw 7. It might be a draw 6, or that might be an older version. But regardless, we've got 7 for now, and we can go ahead and play our main phase. As the first player, we're going to skip our draw step. We also skipped another couple other steps we'll get into later. A very interesting thing about this game is how the resource system works. So you'll notice, let's just take a look at this card, the Honorable Vanguard. It is a 2 cost with 1 attack and 2 health. It has a floating memory ability, which means it helps pay for a memory cost. But we're not playing a memory cost right now. We're paying a reserve cost. You know that because it is yellow and it's being played from our hand. We'll do a memory stuff later. So we're going to ignore that. We're just going to pay the reserve cost of 2. I'm going to do that by taking 2 cards from my hand and putting them face down into my memory. I can potentially get those cards back next turn. So in a way, it's a temporary cost. And it is also important to have cards in your memory so that you can pay memory costs. But all of these things are going to reduce the number of cards in our hand. First of all, we're going to be down a card in our hand because we're playing one. We're playing the Honorable Vanguard. And I think I'll put these 2 down, and therefore this card is now in play, along with our Lost Spirit, which is also in play. And we could do attacks, but our opponent doesn't have anything to attack. I still have 4 cards, and I don't know if this is good, but I am going to play this Weaponsmith. So she has 3 extra health, and she has the ability to add durability to our weapons during our recollection phase. But A, we don't have any weapons right now, and B, that is a class bonus, which means it only applies if our warrior This warrior type matches our warrior champion, and we don't have a warrior champion right now. We just have a spirit. So we're just playing it to have another unit in play. And now I've got to pay another 2 reserve cost for that, which means putting 2 more cards from my hand into memory. Got 1 card left. We're just going to hold on to that, I suppose. And again, we can't attack, so we'll pass the turn. So now player 2's turn is going to play out similarly. They're going to start out by bringing out their Lost Spirit, which says on enter, draw 7 cards. And then they get to play their draw step as well, which is draw 1 card. So player 1 didn't do that just because they went first. And now they can go on to their main phase and do the same type of stuff. I think we'll try out this card, the Veteran Soldier. So it's got 2 attack and 3 health, but it costs 5. So you have to put 5 cards face down. And again, they do get them back, but there is an important part to paying memory costs, which is that it's random. And so they don't want to risk losing a card they're sure they want later. But they can only afford to reserve 2 in that way, because they do still have to pay that memory cost of 5. So they're going to put 5 down, and now this Veteran Soldier gets to come into play. They got 2 cards left that they're not going to use. And then they're going to do an attack. To attack, they're going to rest with this unit, or this ally, and declare whom they are attacking. In this case, I think they'll attack this Honorary Vanguard, because she has only 2 health, and that means the 2 attack on the soldier will be able to take her out. Now, the first player would have the option of exhausting the Vanguard in order to strike back. In this case, it doesn't matter either way. If the card were already exhausted, it would not be able to strike back. In this case, it's ready, so it has the option of striking back. But either way, 1 attack is not going to take out the 3 health, but they may as well do it just so that there's 1 damage here, just in case. So this card is going to be destroyed because, again, it had 2 health and it took the 2 damage here. Your hero doesn't have a built-in attack score, or the champion, even the evolved ones, the level ups, don't really have attack scores normally to be able to make attacks with. But there are attack cards that you can play which cause your champion to then be attacking. But anyway, that's all player 2 can do, so they'll pass back. So first off, player 1 would ready all their cards, but they don't have any readied cards, so they skip that. The next step is to materialize. So now we get to do that thing where we're going to play a card from our materialization deck by paying a memory cost. Now, Honorable Vanguard has floating memory, as we mentioned, which is that it can be paid, or it can be spent from our discard pile to pay for a memory cost. So I think I am going to be doing that. We're going to banish this card from our graveyard to pay 1 toward materialization cost. Otherwise, you would have to pay from your memory, and you would banish a random card from your memory. We're actually not going to have to pay for memory because we are going to materialize a 1-cost card. And this stack of cards, they call it a deck. I don't like calling stacks of cards that aren't shuffled decks. If it's not shuffled, it's not a deck. It's a stack of cards, which is cool. I mean, I have no problem with stacks of cards. I just think they should be called stacks. But anyway, we're going to get this one, which is Lorraine, Wandering Warrior. And now we have a champion who is a warrior. She is level 1, and you see that blue circle, that cost. There are other cards that have bigger blue circles, but on the heroes, the champions, they put their level bigger and then their cost smaller. Although I think their costs tend to match their levels, but they don't necessarily have to, I suppose. So we're going to pay 1 blue cost, which is a memory, which again would be a random card from here. If you had any here, if you don't have any here, because you didn't pay a reserve cost, then you don't have any memory to work with. But in this case, we're actually banishing our floating memory card from our discard pile. And this is our champion. So she is going to upgrade the Lost Spirit. And now instead of having 15 health here, we're going to have 20 health. And she says, on enter, materialize a weapon with memory cost 0. So we get to go back into our weapon, or our materialization deck, and find a 0-cost weapon, of which there is only 1. But again, you'd be able to build your deck. This is just the demo deck. So this is what we're going to grab, the Ornamental Greatsword. And it has 1 health, or one use. I think that's what it is. Basically, we're going to use this 1 time, and then it's going to be out of counters. It also has 1 attack. So when we attack with it, it's going to add 1 to an attack. It also says on enter, target ally you control gets +1 attack until end of turn. So we're going to get that because we now do have that warrior class bonus because we are now Lorraine, who is a warrior. So she'll cover up that spirit. She has leveled up from a spirit into a person. Now I think we could attack with her. Since this is her weapon, this is our champion, I believe we could declare an attack for 1 by exhausting both of these cards. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that would cost 1 of the durability on this weapon, and then that would be it. So it would be attacking for 1, and then the weapon is gone. And if you remember, we have our weaponsmith who says, the beginning of a recollection phase, put a durability counter on target weapon you control. So actually, first of all, the weapon should get a durability now when it comes into play, and now that we've ended our memory step, we move on to recollection. And at the start of this step, I guess we get to do that right away. So we'll go ahead and change that to a 2, adding a durability to a weapon we control. And then we go ahead and recollect, which is when you pick up all the cards that remain in your memory and add them back to your hand. The next step is the draw step. And now we move on to our main phase with our now level 1 champion, a weapon with 2 durability, and +1 attack on the weaponsmith, making her a 2/3 until end of turn. So now player 1 would like to play Reckless Slash, which costs 2, so they're going to take 2 cards from their hand, put them down to pay that reserve cost, and this is an attack card for 3. Again, the demo video didn't cover this, but I believe that means our champion is attacking. I think that means she needs to exhaust. The attack is for 3, and we can choose whom to attack, but I think we'll attack the Lost Spirit directly, and I think we have the option of adding our weapon to that, so I guess I will. Not 100% sure that's a good plan, spending a durability for 1 damage, But the weaponsmith, as long as she sticks around, she gets to add more every turn, so we might as well use it. So that's going to be 4 damage against our opponent's champion, the Lost Spirit. And we're actually going to mark that with damage counters, or you could probably write it down on paper. But here I'm just going to put 4 damage, and again, the Lost Spirit has 15 health, so if we put 15 damage on it, it would die, but they'll probably level up before then, and again, when you level up, your health will increase. Then this card will go to my discard pile, and then I would like to play Inspiring Call, which costs 3, but it says this card costs 2 less to activate. If activate means play the card. If your champion has attacked this turn, our champion has attacked, so I'm going to pay 1 instead of 3 by putting this card into my memory. It says allies you control get +1 until end of turn and draw a card into your memory. So now the weaponsmith gets +1 attack. It already got +1 attack from the ornamental greatsword's class bonus on enter ability, so she's up to 3 attack. And we're gonna have her attack the veteran soldier, who cannot strike back because she's already exhausted. So her 3 health will be overcome by that 3 damage. No damage is dealt back. And that 1 damage she took last turn is irrelevant. That got wiped clean at the end of player 2's turn. But that means Inspiring Call is done. Player 1 has 1 card left in their hand, 4 cards in their memory, 3 of which they paid, and 1 of which they got to draw with that Inspiring Call effect. So they will end their turn there. All right, player 2 can now ready all their cards, which they don't need to do, and go into their materialization phase. And of course, they are also going to become Lorraine Wandering Warrior, but they don't have any floating memory to pay, so they're actually going to have to pay the memory cost normally. And for that, let's bring out a die. So we got our cards numbered 1 through 5. I'll re-roll a 6 and a 6 and a 4. So the 4th card here, this card is banished. So their own weaponsmith is now out of the game to pay for that materialization cost. Now she can materialize a weapon card with memory cost 0, which of course is going to be the same one because these are the same demo decks. I don't know if it's optional, because I wonder if she would actually decline it here, because the ornamental greatsword on enter target ally you control gets +1. They're not going to get that benefit. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's optional, so I'm going to assume it's not. Get 1 durability there, and then go on to the recollection step, pick up these cards, add them to their hand, and then the draw step. And now this Lorraine has, they both have 20 health, but this one has 4 damage, so 16 more to go. And player 2 is going to be a bit risky here. They're going to play 2 cards and use all the rest of the cards in their hand to pay the reserve cost, which means all of the cards from their hand are going to be at risk when they go to materialize next turn. But they're going to also play a Reckless Slash. They're going to pay 2 to activate that, and that's going to be an attack for 3, because it says 3. They're not going to use their weapon, so the 3 damage is enough. They're just going to take out this weaponsmith so that player 1 doesn't get more durability. So they're going to take that out with the Reckless Slash. And then they're going to play a Crusader of Asa, putting 3 cards into the memory. That is a 2/4. It has Intercept if you have the class bonus activated, which they do. It's a warrior, and Lorraine is a warrior. And she would have the ability to basically redirect an attack to her by exhausting, using that Intercept ability. But she enters the field rested, so she won't be able to do that, at least right away. And I don't think she'd be able to retaliate either, so she would steal the attack to herself, but she wouldn't be able to deal 2 damage back because you have to exhaust explicitly for retribution. So I'm not sure if Intercept is meant to also have you reciprocate damage, but at least the way it's worded, I don't think it is. So that's all player 2 can do. So player 1 will ready their cards and go ahead and materialize. And I think it is a little bit risky, because we'll see how this works in a second, but they are going to go ahead and level up to level 2, which means they have to pay 2 of these 4 cards. So I'll use a D8 first. 2, 4, 6, 8. We got a 6, so that's the 3rd card is banished, which was an opening cut. And then 2, 4, 6 on a D6. We got a 4, so that's the 2nd card, which was a sudden steal. All those are banished now. But player 1 gets to go to level 2. Lorraine Blade Master, still a champion, of course. Lorraine lineage means she can only level up from a previous Lorraine champion, which of course is happening here. And she says on enter, until end of turn, her attacks get +2 and gain on kill draw card. So that is a nice ability until end of turn. Then during the recollection step, both of these cards are added to hand, and the draw step, the hand goes up to 4, which is much smaller than the opening 7. So you can see how paying those memory costs can really dig into your hand size and what is available. And now they've got a 5 cost and a 4 cost card in hand, which are unplayable because they wouldn't be able to pay the reserve cost with the remaining cards. At most, they can pay a 3 cost with the other 3 cards. Although, if she can trigger this on-kill draw card, that could change things. But she would need to be able to kill, and she can't because her opponent's only ally has 4 health. So that'd be 2. If we use the weapon, that would be 3 damage. It's not enough to kill a 4. So instead, I think player 1 will play a Banner Knight, paying 2 cards as the reserve cost. It has a class bonus and a level 2 ability. So there are 2 requirements on that ability. Both the warrior has to match warrior, and you have to be at least level 2, which fortunately player 1 is now. So if you get that ability, other allies and weapons you control get +1. And that is an ongoing ability, not just until end of turn. So it's a pretty powerful effect from Banner Knight. So now the Ornamental Greatsword does have +1 attacks. Instead of 1, it's 2. Combined with the +2 until end of turn from leveling up is 4. And so Lorraine will declare an attack, spending a durability to deal 4 damage to the Crusader, taking her out. And since she was killed, that will trigger the on-kill effect of draw a card. They won't be able to play these cards this turn, but they can still attack with Banner Knight. There's no like summoning sickness or anything, so they'll go ahead. They could keep it up to defend, to like strike back at someone, but may as well just get a damage in right now against Lorraine Wandering Warrior on player 1 side and pass. Also, I forgot, because this has no durability left, this is destroyed. And because it says that it is a Regalia weapon, basically this came from our materialization deck, it is banished instead of going to the discard pile. So player 2 gets to ready. And do they want to also go to level 2? Because you can go ahead and level up, but you don't always need to. You might prefer to keep extra cards in your hand to activate more cards during your turn. And looking at their, I mean, this isn't their hand yet. This is their materialization or memory area. Do they want to risk giving up 2 of these cards at random or not? Because it's not just that you're down cards, it's that you're down these specific cards potentially based on the die roll or however you randomly determine that. And they also don't have to materialize up to level 2. There are other cards. You can only materialize 1 card per turn, but it doesn't have to be a champion level. There are other cards in here. For example, this Bauble of Abundance, which costs 0, and it would let each player draw a card when you choose to banish it. I'm liking the look of this Warrior's Longsword. It costs 1, and it has 2 durability, but it has a 1 damage +1 from the ability. The class bonus, we do have a warrior, only level 1, but it would mean it attacks for 2. But I'm not sure if you're allowed to have 2 weapons out at the same time. And even if you are, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to use both of the weapons in a single attack. For the sake of variety, though, I'm not going to level up. Instead, I'm going to materialize this Life Essence Amulet for 0. So player 2 will get to keep all the cards in their hand. And that says whenever an ally you control dies, well, it's not your turn, you can banish this to draw a card. So we'll put that out and recollect these and draw. I'm going to do a similar plan to last time, which is to play another Reckless Slash, risking some of these cards we do want, but I'm going to play that, attack for 3 against the Banner Knight, and send this to the discard pile. Lorraine does need to exhaust for that, though. And then we're going to play a Weaponsmith on this side of the table, spending the last 2 cards in hand. So now they got a 1/3 that can add to durability during their recollection step. And this Weaponsmith can attack for 1. So I'm wondering if I should be playing more defensively, like if I should be waiting and keeping them up to exhaust and deal damage back to the attacking allies or things like that. But the allies haven't been attacking each other too much. They just keep getting taken out by Reckless Slashes. So I'll pass back. All right, player 1 readies and can materialize with 2 cards available. Now, the champion levels normally go up to 3, and the demo decks, they stop at 2. So considering going up to 3 would be something seriously on your mind at this point in a full game. But obviously, player 1 wouldn't even have that option because a level 3 card would cost 3 memory, and they only have 2. But it'd be something you're thinking about, when can I afford to give up 3 cards out of my memory and go down 3 cards in my hand in order to have this more powerful champion, because they do tend to be pretty powerful, and on top of that, they unlock another element. So again, we're playing with only normal cards. Normal decks would have at least 1 element, earth, fire, wind, or water. And when you hit level 3, you unlock another champion. The level 3 Lorraine, for example, unlocks the Crux element. Depending on how many Crux cards you put in your deck, you might really be looking to play those. So being level 3 is more than just extra health and extra ability. you might be activating or making available some percentage of cards in your deck. But player 1 doesn't have a weapon, so I think they will grab that longsword, paying 1 memory. So we'll just roll a d6, high or low. 4 is high, so this veteran soldier is banished. Recollect and draw. And now they have the warrior's longsword, which can attack for 2. And then player 1 is going to play an esteemed knight for 3, the rest of their hand, which is a 2/3 with intercept, so it can exhaust to take an attack. And this one doesn't ready or enter exhausted. And then this does have 2 durability, so you have to be careful with that. We don't have a weaponsmith, do we? So we only get to use this a couple times. I wonder if it's worth wasting it just to deal 2 damage to the enemy, but I'm gonna do it. So she's at 7 damage out of her current 20 health. And then we didn't necessarily point this out, but level 2 is 24 health, so not as big of a jump as from the spirit version. The Steam Knight could attack, and yeah, you know what? Let's just attack. We've got a big health advantage, so let's push that rather than trying to play defensively. Player 2 readies and materialize. And do they need to go to level 2? Kind of think they do want to. They've got 2 Banner Knights in their hand. They're really hoping they don't lose both of them. They'd love to play 1. So we're going to do 2, 4, 6, 8 on a d8. All right, gets 5, gets rid of this 3rd card, a Trusty Steed. And then 2, 4, 6, a 4 is one of the Banner Knights. But now they can draw a card and have enough to afford a Banner Knight by paying the other 2 cards. Oh, and they did pay that cost. They get to be level 2 now, which means they get +2 on her attacks. And on kill, draw a card. The weaponsmith adds a durability. So she has 2, 3, 4 attack actually, between the Banner Knight bonus on the weapon and then her base of 2. We do have to use a durability, but I think that's fine. We just got a free one. So that's an attack for 4 against this esteemed knight to kill her. And then probably just attack with both of these. The Banner Knight doesn't buff himself, but he does buff the weaponsmith, so she has 2 attack +1 on the Banner Knight. That's 2 separate attacks. I'm just shortcutting here, but that's going to be 3 damage, putting this Lorraine up to 4 damage. I'll move this weapon down here, keep the allies in front. But yeah, Lorraine, player 1, is ahead on health, but it's starting to get outclassed a bit. I think she'll also get a Life Essence Amulet. Although player 1 doesn't have any allies to benefit from the Life Essence Amulet with. Well, I didn't give this Lorraine draw a card, did I? Hopefully I'm not messing that up. I think she should have drawn 1 more card from her own on-kill ability. And I think the Banner Knight is too strong to leave it, so we're going to have to kill it. I'm going to play Honorable Vanguard. We played one of these earlier. She's got floating memory, so if she dies, she can help pay for a memory cost. I'm going to have her attack 1 on the Banner Knight. We don't need to mark that damage. We just need to remember it until end of turn. And Lorraine is going to attack using her Warrior's Longsword to add 2, or attack for 2. So that's 2 damage more against the Banner Knight. So now the damage that he's taken adds up to 3, and he is killed. The Warrior's Longsword is banished because it ran out of durability, and the Life Essence Amulet will trigger. This is also Regalia, so it's banished, but Lorraine, player 2, gets to draw another card. And player 1 passes. All right, player 2 can ready. And what do they want to materialize? They have up to 2, but nothing left costs that much. And they're all 1s or 0s. They still have their Ornamental Greatsword for this turn. I think they're going to get a Bauble of Abundance, which can be banished to let each player draw 2 cards. And it costs 0, so they don't have to pay anything. So they can recollect both of these. Weaponsmith actually adds a counter to this, and they draw. So I was thinking that player 2 still had the Trusty Steed in hand, but I guess they haven't had that for a long time. This would have given +2 attack to an ally this turn, and bring out another 1/3, but it costs 4. So I don't even know if that's worth it. But they don't even have that in their hand, so it's not even an option. Instead, they're going to play their own Honorable Vanguard, the Floating Memory 1/2, same as that, paying with these 2 cards. I'm going to attack with this Lorraine. She's going to attack for 1 by using her weapon. So it's only 1 damage attack, and we'll just attack here directly, I think, putting them up to 5 damage. And then they're going to play Inspiring Call, which says, we played this earlier on the other side, but it costs 2 less if their champion is attacked, so they just pay 1. And it gives their allies +1 attack until end of turn, draw a card into their memory, which is really nice. Now both of these can attack for 2 instead of 1. And that means one of them could just take out this Honorable Vanguard. But I almost want to leave it because it becomes floating memory and it would trigger that Life Essence Amulet. So maybe just let them have their 1 damage. And we're going to attack for 4, one at a time obviously, but onto their champion, putting her up to 9 damage. So it is a tie game. Player 1 can ready a tie game, huh? What are they going to materialize now? They don't have a weapon anymore. So maybe it's time for a Seer's Sword. It also might just be time for nothing. You don't have to materialize, and you might really want to preserve these cards in hand. I don't really know what player 1's plan would be, so I think we're going to go ahead and materialize that. So we'll just do high or low on a d6. 5 is the second card. Inspiring Call is out. And Lorraine, Blade Master, player 1 brings out the Seer's Sword, 1 attack, 3 durability, and on attack, Glimpse 2, which means look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put them back on top or bottom in any order. I wonder if it means put each card back on top or bottom, or put those cards. Like, do I have to choose top or bottom for all of my cards? Or can I put some on the top and some on the bottom? I assume I can do that, but it's a weird wording. So we'll recollect, add that to our hand, and draw. We already gave them their Life Essence Amulet cards. We can go ahead and take out their allies. The Weaponsmith is probably giving them the most benefit. Obviously, the Honorable Vanguard would become a benefit in death. And I actually forgot or didn't realize this veteran soldier on the player 2 side has floating memory. So I'm going to mark that by turning it sideways while moving it to the top of the discard pile as well. But I definitely did not realize that. Slash, I didn't realize it. So I think Lorraine will attack. So we're going to have to exhaust her. We're going to be attacking by playing this opening cut. We could just attack with the Seer's Sword, but we're going to attack with the Seer's Sword and the opening cut. Her base attack is 0, the sword adds 1, and the opening cut adds 2. So 3 damage is going to go to the Weaponsmith and take her out from the opening cut, which I do have to pay for, and then Honorable Vanguard can attack for 1, putting that player 2 up to 10 damage out of 24 health. And we get to Glimpse 2 when we attack with the Seer's Sword. So let's see what we want to keep, what we want on the bottom. And I don't know, I think I'll keep this one and put this one on the bottom. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, player 2 can ready and materialize. I think they will materialize, but they're going to materialize using the floating memory that we just remembered we have. And they're going to try out this Sharpening Stone, which costs 1 and says it can be banished to give +1 attack to a weapon and draw a card, which sounds nice. Still probably don't care about killing that Vanguard, so let's just focus on damage on Lorraine. Draw. And we're going to do a big ol' Sudden Steal, which costs 6, which we don't have, but it has the ability Efficiency with a class bonus, which, again, Warrior Attack, Warrior Champion. So we get the class bonus ability, which is Efficiency. Costs less equal to your level. We're level 2, so instead of costing 6, it costs 4, which player 2 can afford. And it just attacks for 5. We'll go ahead and exhaust the weapon to add to that. We're going to spend that last durability there. That's going to make it 6 damage. And I guess I'm not sure if I need to do this first, but we're going to banish the Sharpening Stone. Just make it 7, get cash in our card draw right away. Exhaust Lorraine Blade Master to make it final at 7 damage. Big hit on the Sudden Steal here. So 6 more here, 1 more here. That makes 16 damage out of 24. 8 left to go. But we'll attack with the Honorable Vanguard as well. Make it 7. Okay, that's a lot of damage for player 1. Got 1 card in memory. Guess they'll just bring out their Bauble of Abundance just because it's free. May as well have that option. And I think they will cash in that option. They need another card. So both players get to draw 1. And they're going to play Esteemed Knight. So as you can see, we're having trouble affording even the most basic card. Like you'd think like 3, like for example in a card like Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, cards with accelerating resources, you're playing bigger and more stuff over the course of the game. Here it gets really tight. As soon as you've spent a few cards from memory to level up, bring out weapons, or whatever your class is focused on doing from memory, you're down in hand size, and even just a 3-cost card can be a struggle to pay for. In fact, their hand is 2 4s and a 5, and that's just not something they can afford. Now we are playing with basic demo decks, but the basic premise applies. This is the flow of the game. This is the way the cards move around in Grand Archive. Even if you are playing a class where you might have access to a lot more cards or something like that, you still do have that struggle of managing your hand size. So that keeps it interesting, and it's pretty different from other TCGs. So we went ahead and paid that 3 material cost to bring out this Esteemed Knight. It has intercept and it's a 2/3. At this point, I think we just go ahead and give our opponent their floating memory to avoid them continuing to hit us. Even if it's just 1, we're falling behind on damage here. We could have kept it to intercept, but we'll probably do that later. So we're gonna do 1 more damage here, followed by one more damage here with the Seer's Sword. So 2 damage puts player 2 up to 12 damage. This goes down to 1 durability, and we get to glimpse 2 again. 2 copies of the same card that enters rested. I think I'm gonna send those both to the bottom. Player 2 can ready. I guess this was, we spent all that durability, huh? So we can materialize with 4, and we do need a weapon, so I think it's time to bring out that longsword that's going to have 2 damage on it, or attacks for 2 because of the class bonus. So we'll use 2, 4, 6, 8 again. An 8 is going to be the last card. Crusader of Asa is banished to pay for that memory cost. And now we have a longsword with 2 durability and a lot of cards. So player 2's actually got 6 cards in hand. And I think the win, because I drew another sudden steal, which again is going to cost them 4. I'm just going to choose any 4, and that's going to be an attack for 5, but the longsword can be added for 2 more damage, makes it 7. 7 plus 17 is 24. Lorraine Blade Master level 2 has 24 health and is defeated. So again, champions normally can go up to level 3. These are just the demo decks. With that level 3 would come a little bit more health. But if you haven't leveled up to 3 in time, you can definitely be killed as you're kind of preparing to have enough memory to want to spend it on hitting level 3, and your health is still a bit lower. Also, this was a mirror match between Warrior, which is the most basic class. There's also like Wizard, Tamer, and Assassin. I'm personally interested in the Tamer, and each of those comes with their own special key element in the base set. For example, Lorraine's level 3, as I mentioned, unlocks Crux, whereas Rye, the Wizard's level 3, unlocks Arcane. The Tamer unlocks Terra, and those are in addition to the basic Earth, Fire, Wind, and Water. Rye, I know I enjoyed his demo deck during the Kickstarter on Tabletop Simulator. Again, you can check out that video, but his deck was a lot more focused on comboing. He's playing allies to try to protect himself from the attacking allies on Lorraine's side, and then he was trying to level up and amass enough cards. There's also cards that can temporarily raise your level, which can be especially relevant for cards like Efficiency. You can really get those cost reductions down if you have a temporary level of +4, for example, and then you have cards that deal damage based on his level, things like that. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Tamer and the Assassin add to that conversation. But if you're disappointed by how basic this looked, keep in mind there's a lot more interesting stuff going on outside the demo decks. Normal decks, at the very least, you'll start out with Earth, Fire, Air, or Water in your deck. But if you're interested by the core system, the memory deck, putting cards into your memory, not knowing which ones you're going to have to be spending because you have to roll randomly or let your opponent choose which 2 get spent or something like that. That adds an interesting tension beyond just drawing 1 card every turn, playing 1 resource every turn or whatever. I like both systems, but I do think this is an interesting take on it, and I appreciate when games don't do the same thing that's already been done before, even if I like that thing that has been done before. So keep an eye out. I did back the Kickstarter, so I'll definitely have some starter decks and boosters. I can build some more interesting decks. Probably won't have a collection to build the most powerful decks, but if you want to see some full-on Lorraine decks, some full-on Rye, some Tamer, and some Assassin, as well as maybe some booster openings, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Subscribe so we can get more subscribers, and bye.